tell you something else. Like I said, I know way too much. First Corinthians, right? And then there's some. Did Paul actually write this? Well, here's the other thing about First Corinthians. The other thing, but you think they would just doctor it like they did everything else in the New Testament? I don't know why they didn't. Like why they didn't look at Paul's letter and go, "Wow, we messed up when we were plagiarizing or whatever when we were making this shit up. And we got the order of appearance from the gospel." Apparently, because it was written before or after, or I don't know what. But here's the thing about First Corinthians. First Corinthians is the only place where Paul vaguely mentions something that might be the Eucharist. It's like one sentence in all of Paul's letters. Paul doesn't tell anybody to do the body and blood of Jesus. He doesn't even mention it ever. But it's in the three Gospels, and that's what you're supposed to do. Paul doesn't mention it because the letters were written before the Gospels. Because the Gospel of John and the letters of Paul are the original foundation of the made-up Christianity. But then when they started having problems, they made the other three Gospels. That's why they started adding stuff. That's why the letters of Paul don't have the Eucharist in them, because they had already written them, right? Before they were like, hey, you know what? We should probably throw this Eucharist thing in there. That's why the Eucharist isn't in the letter. But in 1 Corinthians, he says, yes, and then you will sup. And they go, see, Paul said the Eucharist. Oh, he didn't. He doesn't mention it at all. None of the letters do. Because they wrote all the letters were written before Matthew, Mark, and Luke were written. Right? John was probably the first gospel. John was actually supposed to be John the Baptist, but then they were doing the hokey pokey ones, and they started finding out they had problems over hundreds and hundreds of years. So they had to add more gospels, and they added them. We were like, how do you know that? Well, because okay, you guys are like, well, no, these gospels were written in 70 AD. Well, how come the only known manuscripts that we have that they're carbon dated? They're around 300 AD to 700 AD, or when the Gospels. Josephus, which they use, they're like, Josephus wrote about this stuff too. The only manuscript they have of Josephus is 600 AD. It's not in Greek, it's in Latin. The only Greek text they have of Josephus is from 1400. 1400 years after, and then the only manuscript, the Greek, because Josephus was this Greek scholar, and he's the expert on John the Baptist and all this stuff. The only known writing we have is from 1400 AD. What? There's nothing from 37 AD when he supposedly lived. Nope. There's something from 600 AD, and it's in Latin. The only text that they have that's in Greek, which is what would have been if he was writing, because that's why the Gospels are supposedly in Greek, because everybody wrote in Greek or whatever. The only Greek manuscript they have of Josephus, who's supposed to be the linchpin, the whole basis for their argument, is 1400 AD. There is no other text. Well, I wonder why. Probably because they made this shit up.